Vastola.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning in to Vastola on the Law. I am Jeff Vastola. I'm your host. I'm here every Saturday morning from 7:30 to 8, and I'm here to give you free legal advice. If you would like some, please call into the show, 877-850-8585. That's the number to call in to be live on the air. You can ask me anything you want, Monday through Friday, actually 7 days a week. I'm a personal injury, wrongful death, medical malpractice attorney, but I don't limit the show topics to just those things. You can call in and ask me anything that you want. If I can answer your question here and now, then I will do that. If I need some additional time to do the research, then that's what I'm going to do. And I'll get back with you the following week with what I consider to be an educated response to your question. So that number again, 877-850-8585. Call throughout the show. Don't wait for me to stop talking because I'm going to try to fill these next 30 minutes with something. Good morning, my mother. Checking in on Facebook Live from Tennessee. Yes, you can watch me on Facebook Live if you are a Facebook friend of mine, and if you are not a Facebook friend of mine, then you can contact me on Facebook. You can do a friend search. I guess that's how it's done. Do a friend search, find me, and do a friend request. And if you're going to do that blindly, if I don't know you already, then make sure that you either call me or send me an email to say, hey Jeff, I sent you a friend request. I listened to you on the radio show. I'd like to be able to watch you on Facebook Live. So please accept my friend request, because like most of you, I don't just blindly accept friend requests from people that I don't know. And so I've heard in the past that people that watch or listen to the show on the radio have made friend requests that have gone ignored. So I don't want to intentionally ignore you. So just make sure you tell me that you have made that request. And that way you'll be able to watch me live from 7:30 to 8 on Facebook. Now, if you are old-fashioned, so to speak, and you just want to listen to the old box, that's fine too. 8:50 a.m. If you're wondering where the radio show is, it's 8:50 a.m. and every Saturday from 7:30 to 8. Now, if you miss a show, these are all uploaded as a podcast. They're uploaded onto my website. They're uploaded onto my YouTube station. They are uploaded to the radio station's website. So you can find them all over the place. I'm outside again today. Last week I was talking about the birds and how a little bit distracting they are, but my mom spoke to me after the show and said that she really likes the sound of the birds. So I'm doing it again for you, Mom. And those birds are at it again. So good morning to everybody. This is Vastola on the Law. I should probably add to the end of that, in Florida. I'm only licensed in the state of Florida, and ever since I've started doing Facebook Live, people from all over the country can actually watch, and do sometimes. So keep in mind that all of my advice is really only good in the state of Florida. If you're interested in finding out more about me, you can go to my website. It's vastolalegal.com. Vastola is V as in Victor, A-S-T-O-L-A. If you want to talk to me in private, if you think, well, Jeff, the radio station's a really cool thing, but this is just way too private for me to share with everybody else out there that's listening or watching, then call me on my cell phone. That number to reach me is 833-VASTOLA, which is 833-827-8652, and you can reach me anytime. If I don't answer my phone, leave me a message, because I do encourage people to call me on the weekend. I encourage you to call me at night, but that doesn't mean that I always answer the phone. Sometimes I simply cannot. And if I don't answer the phone, if you leave me a message, I will call you back. So, ways to reach me: website, cell phone. You can reach me in the office during the week. Good morning, Mary. And you can always email me. My email address is right there on the website, and you can just reach out to me. We have a new client form on the website. You can fill that out. All kinds of ways that you can get in touch with me and my staff. You can follow us on social media. I have a marketing director who is very active on social media. And very importantly, we are now in the Keys. We have a physical location, brick and mortar location in the Florida Keys, and I was able to obtain the domain injuredinthekeys.com. If you know of anybody that's not necessarily living in the Keys, the whole point of me doing this was to potentially help people that are visiting in the Keys and somehow get injured or have some kind of a claim while they're there, and then of course they leave. So if you know of anybody that was visiting in the Keys and had some kind of an incident, I'm a great resource for them. And you can give them that same number I mentioned before, 833-VASTOLA. There is no obligation to hire me when you dial that number. You can just use that number as a resource to get answers to your questions. Much the same way I'm here every Saturday morning, I'm answering my phone constantly as a resource. So injuredinthekeys.com is basically another domain name for us. If you type that into your web browser, you'll see that it actually just kind of forwards to my vastolalegal.com website. But we intend to start marketing injuredinthekeys.com slowly and over time. Here's probably the biggest news that I wanted to share with everybody, because this is the last Saturday that I'm going to be talking about this seminar. Our very first Vastola free legal seminar is this Tuesday, April 27th. It's at the Embassy Suites Hotel in Palm Beach Gardens. That's on PGA Boulevard. It is free to attend. And if you attend, you're very likely going to win some kind of a prize. We're going to be doing raffles, but you don't have to even purchase a raffle ticket. From 1 to 4 in the afternoon at the Embassy Suites Hotel. There's going to be a panel of speakers. I've got 3 other people coming in addition to myself that are all there to give free advice in different areas of life. Insurance, estate planning, health, and me personally will be doing legal. So although I'm calling it a free legal seminar, it's basically a free information seminar, and it's free. It's free. So please come. We will be doing COVID precautions, wearing masks, staying distanced. I'm going to have goodies there to eat and drink. Nothing too crazy, but I think it's a water and coffee bar and munchies to eat, each individually packaged. So COVID conscious snacks. And we really would like to see the room full of people. So, but most importantly, what we're going to be doing there is not just giving away of free information, but we're going to have breakout sessions where you can have independent consultations with the people that are there and really get some decent information, some very valuable information for free. And lastly, I have paid for a set of tires that I'm going to be giving away to hopefully somebody in need at the seminar. Somebody that cannot afford a new set of tires. I want to make sure that somebody is not driving around on bald tires. That's really the motivation for doing that. I've got my puppy with me here this morning. Both of them actually. They're out here enjoying the outdoor air. So, my topics for today, I am going to touch on insurance again because, as usual, almost every week in my office, I had to turn away not 1 but 2 people because they're young. That's nice. Hello, Mr. Bug. They just weren't aware of the types of insurance available, involved in an accident. It wasn't their fault, and I had to turn them away. And unfortunately, this time, financially, it's going to affect at least 1 of the 2 of them because they had been suggested to go get all kinds of medical care before they came to see me and racked up a bunch of medical bills. Over and above, sorry about this, this is one of the drawbacks of doing this outside. I'm getting attacked by this mosquito. So anyway, I want to talk about insurance because I can't imagine a whole lot of young people are watching. I mean, no offense, Mom. But the younger generations, those that are in their 20s, the last thing on their minds is making sure they have appropriate insurance. I was the same way. When I was young, I just got the insurance that I could afford. But it's really important, not just for the younger generation, but for everybody, to understand what's out there and what you should have. Mary knows this. She hears myself and Chris Banker talk about this every week during our marketing meetings. But if you don't have the right kind of insurance on your automobile policy and something happens, you can't fix that retroactively. You can't go back in time and say, okay, well, you know what, now I've changed my mind. I want to get that uninsured motorist coverage now. And so know what it is, check your policy, make sure that you have it. And if you don't have it, first thing, by the way, you can make changes to your policy anytime that you want. You can even cancel a policy with one company and start up a policy with a new company. And even if you've paid in advance, you don't lose that money. They have to prorate it and give you a refund for what you haven't used. That's one aspect of insurance that's really quite fair to the consumer. But you can also make changes depending on who your insurer is, who the company is. You might even be able to make changes on the weekend. If you use an agent and they're not open on the weekend, then first thing Monday morning, call your agent and say, look, I heard this guy on the radio or I watched him on Facebook Live saying I need, if I'm in Florida driving or a passenger in a vehicle, I need uninsured motorist coverage. Do I have it? If you can look at your policy, your declarations page, and see for yourself that you have it, fine. Make sure you have it in sufficient amounts. Uninsured motorist at $10,000 is great because you've got some, but $10,000 in the context of an automobile accident where your medical bills can easily get into six figures, it doesn't do you a whole lot of good. Look at the price difference between an uninsured motorist coverage for $10,000 to jump up to $25,000 or $50,000. You'd be shocked at how little the incremental price increase is to go from $10,000 to $50,000. It's $40,000 more of coverage for just a couple of dollars more every 6 months. It's really surprising. This is one of the things that we're going to be doing at the free legal seminar on Tuesday, April 27th at the Embassy Suites Hotel from 1 to 4. It's free. There's really no ulterior motive here for us except to make sure that we get people in the seats. But bring your insurance policies. We want you to bring every insurance policy that you have. Homeowners, automobile, boat, if you've got a business, if you've got general liability coverage, if you've got a condo. Bring your insurance policies if you have questions about what's on the policy itself, or perhaps if you should have coverages that are not on the policy, because that's one of the things that we're going to be covering, both me personally, because I know a lot about the insurance policies, and also the insurance expert that we have that's going to be on the panel. We're going to be having one-on-one insurance policy review at this free legal seminar. So anyway, one of the things that we'll be talking about, of course, is automobile insurance and how important it is. So just a primer for everybody. Florida only requires 2 types of coverage on a car policy. I've said this before. Buying an automobile insurance policy for a vehicle is a lot like buying the vehicle itself, in that there's a lot of options. There's coverages in the state of Florida that are not mandatory. And just like when you're buying the vehicle and you're having to decide if you want the sunroof or the leather seats or the upgraded wheels, there are options to the insurance policy that is going to cover that vehicle where you get to decide, okay, do I want bodily injury coverage? Do I want uninsured motorist coverage? Do I want medical payments coverage? Do I want rental coverage? There's a big one. Rental. Please, I mean, this has come up more times in the last 6 months than almost in my entire career for some reason. Rental, I don't know if insurance companies are deciding to hold back on it or what, but if you don't have rental car coverage on your own policy and you're involved in an accident, the other person's insurance policy does not have to provide you with a rental. Sometimes they will, depending on the circumstances, but keep that in mind. It is getting insurance is done for 2 reasons, really, to protect other people, because you could get coverage on your policy that will protect other people. That's bodily injury coverage. But I don't want to say this, but selfishly, in a sense, more importantly, to protect you and your family and the people that are in your car. Guests that are in your car can have access to the coverages on your policy. So when you're buying insurance, yes, you want to think of others, but think selfishly too. What do I want to protect me and to protect my family that ride in my car every day? If you deselect optional coverages, and I say deselect because you have to make an intentional decision not to have uninsured motorists on your policy. You actually have to check the box and you have to sign a statement saying, I intentionally have decided I don't want uninsured motorist coverage. Don't do that. That's a huge mistake. It can happen to you. You hear me, I sound like a broken record, I know I do, but it's like every week I'm turning people away because they don't have uninsured motorists on their policy. Car accidents happen so frequently here. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but the congestion on the roads in Florida has increased tenfold in the last year. If you haven't been paying attention to the media and the real estate market and everything else, people are flooding to Florida. And right now, in late April, about to be early May, this is the time of year that pre-COVID, we would see these transport trucks arriving and loading up cars and traveling north to go back up to the Northeast, usually, sometimes the Midwest. Everybody is typically leaving Florida now. Well, what we're seeing this year is that nobody's leaving. And so, welcome to Florida, but the roadways are so congested now, there's only going to be more accidents. I hate to say that. I don't want accidents, but there will be more because we have more population. And I hate to say it, but the population that's staying here statistically is kind of a dangerous population on the roadway. They tend to cause a lot of accidents. So protect yourself. That's the whole point of what I'm trying to say. Just protect yourself. Thank you, Mary. Important. Insurance is important, and I know that you know that, not just from automobile, but also from business coverage. If you have a business, and this happened in a case that I was handling personally, and it didn't happen to me or my client. It happened to the defendant that my client had sued, who relied on an insurance agent to provide adequate coverage, and turns out didn't get adequate coverage. And so what happens? There's no coverage for the claim. So what happens? It makes that person personally exposed to the liability of the claim. You have insurance for a reason. It's to make sure that if you do something, not intentionally, because no insurance policy is going to pay for intentional acts, but if you do something negligently and you cause injury to somebody else, you have insurance so that you don't have to dig into your own pocket, or you don't have to sell your assets to pay for that mistake. And as a plaintiff's lawyer, I don't want to come across as hypocritical to say, I never make mistakes. That's not my point. Is we all make mistakes, and that's why everybody needs insurance. I have insurance because I know that I can make a mistake and I might hurt somebody, and that's precisely why I have the insurance, and that's why you need to have it too. But the problem in Florida is people just assume that if they're involved in an accident, that's somebody else's fault. Well, automatically, the state has insurance requirements that's going to make sure that they get covered. That is a false. Oh, here we go. The dogs have probably seen a bunny. That is a false notion, and I don't want anyone else to fall victim to that, because the state does not require insurance that will protect you if somebody else causes the accident. So just be aware of that. That's my insurance primer for the day. I'm going to talk about some cases in the Florida Law Weekly. I know I promise almost every week that I'm going to get to these cases, and then I start talking and I realize that I don't. But this version of the Florida Law Weekly is really interesting. It's the April 16th edition. And the reason why this edition is interesting to me, at least, is because there's 3 different cases in here, all from the west coast of Florida. Not the same judge, of course, but all from the west coast of Florida that deal with injunctions. And if you watch my show, you've heard me talk about injunctions recently. But when somebody is in fear of a stalker, they can get an injunction to prevent that person from coming close. And the restrictions are sometimes customized depending on the circumstances. But it's interesting to me, what's required, and the findings of these different courts, and how sometimes they're just so inconsistent. Now, of course, you're not going to have two cases where the facts are the same, and the facts of these cases are not the same. But what's interesting is when I'm reading them, I'm thinking to myself, well, that to me sounds kind of weird. This happens in the courtroom. Now, I haven't been in the courtroom in a very long time because of COVID, but back in the good old days, it used to be that if you had a hearing in the morning, you'd go in and you'd be there with most likely a lot of other lawyers there that morning who are presenting different issues to the judge on whatever's going on in their cases. And it's funny, you'll sit there in the bleachers in the back of the courtroom, and there'll be typically 2 lawyers at the podiums in the well of the courtroom making their arguments to the judge, and the first lawyer who's presenting the motion will provide some oral argument in support of the motion, the written motion that was previously filed. And you sit back in the back and you listen and you think, whatever the case is, it could be a breach of contract, it could be not family, because family law is typically in different courtrooms, but it could be some other kind of law other than personal injury. But you listen to the first side and you think, wow, that's really egregious. Why did they even have to file this motion? How could the other side possibly defend based on these allegations and these facts? And then sure enough, the other attorney will stand up and give the other side of the story, and you're like, wait a minute. It sounds like almost what the first lawyer said is completely untrue, based on this lawyer's version of the facts and the evidence and everything else. And so, in a sense, you really sympathize with the judges who see this and hear this every single day. 2 different sides of the story, right? So these injunction cases are very similar, where oftentimes when I'm reading these opinions, the courts have summarized the facts of the case, and they do it chronologically based on the first attorney's rendition of the facts, and then the second attorney's version of the facts. And so I just wanted to highlight this one because I thought it was really interesting, because as I read the first attorney's rendition of the events, this is the appellate court summarizing what was presented. I'm thinking to myself, holy cow, why is this even a dispute? It talks about how this is not a marriage relationship, but a dating relationship that just went sour. It's over in Tampa, and how the petitioner, who is the female who asked for this restraining order, met this man on a social dating site, and then after that things got weird. According to this side, he got kind of creepy, going to her house. He actually went into her house one time after they had broken up, and after she had said stay away from me, he actually went to her house and went inside the house. So again, you read this stuff and it just seems kind of creepy. She's got a 17-year-old daughter that she's trying to stay safe, because apparently this guy is just giving her the heebie-jeebies. But what she's really relying on in this restraining order is that all of these social media, social interest groups that she belongs to online, he's joining. And her petition was essentially, he's joining all these groups to harass me. Oh, the ducks. Sorry about that. He's joining all of these groups to harass me, and he's stalking me by joining all of these groups. All right, and there's a kind of a long list of all the groups that he joined after she did. Now, mind you, they met on a social dating, social interest site, a travel site that apparently they both like to travel well. So you read the first side of the story, and seems like a slam dunk to me, right? Well, then you read the second half of the what's that old radio commentator that said, and now the rest of the story. So the respondent, the man who is defending himself, presented the testimony of his adult daughter, who said, it wasn't my dad that was doing all of this, it was me. I know my dad's login for his social media, and because I wanted my dad to get out there and be more social. This is an adult daughter that came to the court and testified on behalf of her father, saying, my dad didn't do any of this stuff, it was all me. And I'm sorry, I wasn't aware that he wasn't supposed to be doing all of this stuff. So, pretty interesting case, despite the testimony from both sides and the fact that the respondent seemed to have had a justified reason for having joined these things. The court ultimately just laid down the law and said, well, whether your adult daughter knew it or not, you violated the existing anti-stalking injunction, and so I'm going to grant this petition to extend it. But anyway, I thought that was an interesting take on an injunction, on a stalking injunction. But then there's another one where this is a marriage that went bad, and apparently for the last 20 years it's been pretty bad between them. And this is a case where the wife was allowed to testify that the ex-husband put a camera outside of the home so that he could observe the outside of the home and what was going on. He installed a hotspot. This is all without telling her or without getting her approval. He had installed a hotspot so that he could see what was going on, I guess, I don't know, internet activity or whatever, and that he had put a GPS device on her car. Now, her testimony was that it was on her car. And so you start thinking to yourself, creepy, this is giving me the heebie-jeebies just hearing this story about what this guy's doing. Well, sure enough, the other side of the story, okay, so what you learn when the respondent is allowed to testify, and what's summarized in this case, is that he installed, thank you, Sharina, he installed a camera outside the home because the home was actually owned by his parents, and he did it to make sure that, for burglary and other reasons. He had to install the Wi-Fi so that the outdoor camera would work. It's only looking at the outside of the home, not the inside of the home. And lastly, the GPS device that was supposedly installed on the wife's car was actually in the daughter's backpack so that he could track where his young daughter was going. And I can understand from a parent's perspective why you might want to have it. So anyway, interesting cases, at least to me. Don't forget about our free legal seminar, April 27th, Embassy Suites Hotel from 1 to 4. It's free, PGA Boulevard. I'm Jeff Vastola. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great weekend. Remember to call me at 833-VASTOL.